All right, I think we're live. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a long day here at the Dome. Tommy Sladek, Samantha Croston here with Orange Zone. Syracuse football winning it 59-0 over Wagner.
How about that?
Real score, 59-0. It was over from the start, honestly.
Oh, it was, and you'd start with just that team performance, absolutely dominant. Okay, I'm looking at some of these stats. SU had 631 total passing and rushing yards compared to Wagner's 50 total passing and rushing yards. 26 first downs for SU to Wagner's 4. And I mean, you were watching up there. Did this feel lopsided?
Yes. Yes. To answer that question, yes. So much so that we saw a third and fourth quarter get reduced to 10-minute quarters. We'll touch more on that here in a second, but you know what? Let's do it now.
Let's.
That's what's on our minds. Coming out of halftime, all of a sudden, we get the announcement. The third and fourth quarter will be moved to 10-minute quarters, down from 15. People at home were like, is there something wrong on ESPN Plus? We have a lot of construction, a lot of people moving stuff, by the way. So sorry for any noise. That's on us for being here so late. But again, that told you how lopsided it was. It was 49-0 at halftime. 7 touchdowns there in the first half. And let's talk about them. Sean Tucker, Garrett Schrader, they were the big names. And they certainly came out and performed right away. And while you're talking here, I'm just going to move this down.
Yeah, go ahead. Listen, I have some things for you. Yeah, it looks pretty.
That works.
Looks good.
Yeah.
We have a little height discrepancy between us two. So that's always something that we got to kind of work on and figure out. But listen, you fix that, and I'm gonna talk to people through some stats.
Let's do it.
This is the thing, Schrader, okay, QB Garrett Schrader went a perfect 17 for 17 for 232 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns. That is crisp, but I also think it speaks to, and this is what Coach Dino Babers was touching on in his press conference, the wide receivers, because that's 17 passes that they caught. You know, not a lot of drops tonight at all, not a lot of penalties either, all around, 59-0. We had discussed earlier in the week, is there any possibility at all, even though it seemed unlikely, could this be a trap game? I mean, this was a dominant performance. They absolutely competed, and I felt like they played up. They didn't sink to the level of the competition at all.
They didn't. And, I will say, I felt bad for Wagner.
Yeah.
That's tough. A 24-game losing streak is something that I think any former athlete would say to themselves, that is tough. So I give them a lot of credit for some of these games that they played so far this year. They've already played they've already played Rutgers, and now you're coming into a place like Syracuse that even for some of the biggest teams in the ACC or Big Ten and in college football struggle here.
Yeah.
So for them to come in, I do give them a lot of credit, but it was all Syracuse from the jump, and people needed to see that. And I think we need to talk about Sean Tucker because I do want to get into the run game a little bit. 3 first-half touchdowns for the guy. His first touchdown since the UConn game. He had gone 2 weeks without it, 2 weeks without breaking that 100-yard threshold. And it was an offense that could not explode through the line. And there were some questions of, is his explosiveness off? Is the O-line not creating those holes? And that is one of the biggest things that fans told us this week that they wanted to see from this game was a running game that was efficient with Sean Tucker, and something that maybe didn't even need to go to the outside but up the gut. And we did start to see those. A few moments there in the beginning, there were the same 2-yard, 3-yard runs. But then the holes started creating, and this guy broke open. 60-yarder to the house, and they were just like, okay, yep, Sean Tucker, still really good. Sean Tucker, still really fast.
And he always was, I think. I think for a player like Sean Tucker, people always have high expectations for him, and that's okay. They should. He's a great player. But I don't think that we can doubt him just because he doesn't have maybe his best performance for a game or two. I always had faith in him. I knew that there would come a time again where he was pleased with his performance, which, by the way, he did say tonight. So expect that tweet coming out sometime in the near future. But
I'm pleased, end quote.
I'm pleased.
Yeah.
But to see that explosiveness, I don't think not only did fans need to see that, but I also think his other teammates, I think he's inspiring to watch. And he's one of those leaders who I think leads by example. Always been a little on the quieter side. So, it's nice to see him really kind of step up to his potential in this Wagner game.
Especially with the way the rest of this season is going to be in these ranked opponents. This was a get-right game about fixing those mistakes. Still some penalties. Dino Babers not happy about it. Fan base not happy about it. Again, time to work that out. But Sean Tucker, people needed to see him explode here. Before this game, his longest run, Sam, was 13 yards. That is the most anti-Sean Tucker start to the season I've ever heard. So to have him get that big run here today, plus a few more, finishing with more than 200, past Mo Neal and a few others on the all-time list to 7th all-time. So again, he exceeds 200. Now, I know there were some fans, and plenty of them, frustrated, especially when Sean Tucker went down in that first drive of that third quarter. They were not happy with Dino Babers keeping his first string out there after halftime when, again, we talked about it, it was already 49-0. And then Sean Tucker went down. Medical staff is looking at him for a few minutes. And for the third time this year, he's getting up and walking off on his own 2 feet. Tells us after he's doing all right. Whether it's, whatever he says, it sounds like this bye week's coming at a good time. But Dino defending that in his post.
He
in the
did.
Post presser.
Post.
It's been a long Saturday.
No, we did. We got to catch up with Dino Babers, and he did address that. The question was asked, and he did defend it. He said that actually is something standard to keep your starters in for the third quarter for one drive. And I don't think he was ever anticipating leaving them in for more than that. He wanted to leave them in for that one drive in the third quarter and then would take them out. So he said that's standard. It wasn't something that he thought was outside of the realm of possibility at all.
Yeah, and again, that offense pulled really great after that drive there. And the second half literally went by like this. And again, if you're just tuning in, the quarters were reduced from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. And wow, is that a difference? I mean, it's incredible how quick it went. And of course, you also had a game where both teams knew this thing is over. But going back to that score of 59-0, Syracuse is a team that is 25 in the coaches poll. They're knocking on the doorstep of the AP poll. A top 25 team obliterates an opponent like this 2022 Wagner team. They did just that. We saw the passing in the air. Again, 17 for 17 for Garrett. You saw Sean Tucker. And as for some of the other smaller accolades we have to hand out, Steve Linton, 2 sacks. That was nice. Good seeing that from the defense. Deuce Chestnut finally got the roaring Deuce chant we've been waiting for all year. Pick 6 interception. And I got to give a shout out to my guy, Devon Cooper, number 7. This guy, he has 7 years here in college football. He's been all over the place. He was in Texas El Paso. He was in Arizona. He's been with the Orange here in his second year. That was his first time in the end zone in 2 years. And I was joking that I think this guy literally sets the record for the amount of times he catches passes and or gets tackled at the 1 or 2 yard line and had not had a score. So I know he was clearly happy about that. You were down here on the field. Any other observations and stuff that stuck out to you, Sam?
Well, I'm happy that you give out some of these honorable mention awards, let's call it, because honestly, we talk about how impressive the number 59 is, but how about that 0? How about that 0 on the other side of things? This SU defense held it down, and I recognize that, this opponent on the weaker end of things, but they've been doing such a good job all year, and being down here, shooting those plays, I have to be honest, some of the most rewarding plays that I shoot are the sacks and the celebrations afterward. They got the muscles out, they're happy, and you could see it revs everybody up. So I was really impressed with the defense, the way that they're all working together. It feels like a really cohesive unit, despite the fact that a couple of starters have gone down so far here in this earlier part of the season.
0 rushing yards allowed in that first half.
How about that? I mean,
how many first downs? There were a few. They shut them down. And again, going back to this Syracuse team, and I think a few fans are going to be asking the question now, as they should, where do they move here in the rankings? And again, this is a 5-0 team. They're going to stay 5-0 until week 7 because they have the bye week here in week 6. We talked about it on Orange Zone this week. We both agree that it's going to come down to what the other teams do around them. Less on what happened here. They check the box for Syracuse blows out Wagner. that happened.
Great.
The eyes of the voters are more turning towards those teams around them in the 20 to 25, the other teams receiving votes. And again, because they have that extra week of they will be undefeated here till mid-October, I think that this time can only help them.
Oh, definitely. And again, we discuss how do you move up in that poll, and if you're Syracuse, outside of just being able to wait, best thing you can do outside of that is make a statement in this NC State game, because we know NC State, are they still in that top 25 poll as we speak?
They're actively playing Clemson as we're recording this Saturday night. So we will find out. They were on game day as a part of that Clemson NC State. So we'll see. More than likely, I absolutely expect the Wolfpack to be ranked by then.
Yes, I do too. So I think that definitely will make a difference. But even Garrett Schrader was saying tonight, listen, this bye week, it really is about us. And I thought something that was interesting. You know how they've had their philosophy since the beginning of the season where they go 1-0 every week.
Yep.
He said that about the bye week when you're only competing against yourselves. But honestly, I agreed with that. That kind of hit home for me, because I feel like sometimes your biggest enemy or your biggest competition and challenge can sometimes be playing up to that level in practice that you would be playing in a real game. I think that there could be a conversation about, after a bye week, are they a little bit rusty and whatnot? So making sure that you're competing really well in practice, which Garrett Schrader says they have been doing, I think that's critical in this next week or two.
He said he went hardcore there, but I think they absolutely will take a few days to get those bodies right. This team needs it. They're banged up, and they could use this rest, because the back half of this season, whoo boy, it's going to be tough. But I think they're a team that's up for the challenge. Tommy Sladek, Samantha Croston, your live recap. Syracuse taking down Wagner. We will still have Orange Zone this week, and a special guest is coming in. He's a former player. He's also on that Syracuse all-time rushing list. Stay with us. New episode dropping Wednesday. We're out of here for YouTube Live if I can figure out how to close it.
Thanks,
Let's
guys.
see. Exit? Yeah. I think we're going exit here. See you guys.